and welcome to our weekly QPR Preview Show ahead of another double game week, this time facing Huddersfield at home and Millwall away. As you can see, Dave is back to help me look ahead towards those matches. But first, let's look back at the 1-0 defeat at Swansea. I was so positive on last week's show. I was convinced we were going to win, so inevitably we lost. We did stay ninth in the league, though, even though we lost, so it's proven to be a competitive or tight or just full of similarly rubbish teams, depending how you view it in the league. Did we get what we deserved from a lacklustre, rather nervy display, Dave?
Yeah, I think it was a fair result, really, wasn't it? Swansea, I thought they did quite well. They stopped us from playing quite well. I mean, they stopped our fullbacks going forward. They blocked the space for Willock and Chair quite well. They were a lot better than they were last year against us. But ultimately, we just didn't take our chances again, did we? I thought in the final third we missed a couple of chances to play the right ball or a cross, and we just didn't get it quite right.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, it's a different game, isn't it? If that Cabango gets sent off in the first 30 seconds, it would be a different game. Might have still only got a draw, but it wouldn't have been the way it panned out. Ignoring that, though, I felt in the second half we didn't create enough. Like you said, Swansea just seemed to know how to play us, and that's maybe concerning for some other games, because if you nullify the fullbacks and get on top of Chair and Willock early on, you kind of stifle our play, don't you? Dykes was isolated again, and it was like coming back down to earth after the high of picking up 6 points the week before, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were so good in those other two games, but you could just see there's a few tired legs out there as well.
Yeah, we do, and we'll probably come on to the QPR side of it in a minute, but we have to pick ourselves back up against Huddersfield and Millwall, who they're both in the bottom half as we speak. So on paper, at least, it's an opportunity for us to pick up some points. Let's preview those games. Huddersfield at Loftus Road next. They've made, obviously, a poor start to the season. They've only won 1 of 7, 4 points from 21, 4 games without a win coming into this one. So you know what's probably going to happen with QPR turn up. And it should be said as well that QPR have only won 1 of the last 9 matches against Huddersfield, going back to 2015. Are Huddersfield as bad as the early league table suggests?
They're as bad as it suggests, but they're a lot weaker than last year, aren't they? I mean, they've lost a lot of their players from last year. They had a lot of loans, didn't they, last year? And they lost Toffolo and a couple of others in the summer. So they're not as strong. They've got a new manager as well. But they're a bit unlucky at the weekend against, is it Blackpool? They had that goal. Well, it wasn't given, was it? It was clearly over the line. So they're a bit unlucky there. You know, you think they can't, maybe they're going to be like Barnsley last year and go from playoffs to really struggling, but you think they can't surely be that bad to go from one game away from the Premier League to down the bottom this year. It is a surprise. Yeah,
I mean, it was like they were basically robbed, weren't they, in the playoff final? There's some very dubious decisions. Then the manager leaves, and then to rub salt in the wounds, Forest are the ones who bought their key men off them, weren't they?
Yeah.
They must be so aggrieved, especially now they have made a poor start. You were right that they had that goal, didn't they? It should have been a goal if the technology had worked. Do you think they might be a bit of a wounded animal and feeling aggrieved coming into this one now?
They might be. It's one of them dangerous games for us, isn't it, where we all expect to win. We'll win this one, and they're going to come. They've got nothing to lose, have they? Really? I think it's a tricky game for us. It's one of them where you need to start like we did in the whole game, full guns blazing, try and get in front early on. And then hopefully they've got a lack of confidence. You can kind of build on it.
Yeah, definitely. And like you're saying there, we've done these preview shows now. Anyone watching, we've thought we were going to beat Rotherham and Blackpool, and we just didn't. And then the matches we think we're going to lose, we win. It's just very hard to call QPR at the moment. Probably hard to call the league in general, to be honest. Turning our attentions to QPR, did Mick Beale learn a lot about his QPR side last weekend in the defeat, do you think?
I think he will have. I think he will look at. We saw a lot last year with Wolverhampton when they had the 3 game weeks. He kind of mixed it up a bit, and like we'd all moan and go, "Why is he changing the team?" But he was keeping everyone fresh, and it kind of showed when you've got like, Paul Johansson was really good against Watford and Hull earlier in that week, and he was really pushing up the field. You could see he looked a bit tired in that game at Swansea. And you also had like Field and Dazelle have been really good. And you just think maybe with the players they've brought in the window and with Amos coming back, they may be able to change it up a bit when they have these sort of weeks going forward. They're a bit unlucky that a lot of the injuries are in midfield at the minute, so he can't really make that many changes.
Yeah, you're right. You imagine once Amos and Richards are back, he might even change all three for if there's a 3 game
Yeah.
week. So, I think he is still obviously learning. He's only even after these 2 games, he'll have only been in charge for 10 league games. He'll be identifying the weaknesses and the things that we're talking about, and hopefully we can find the consistency that we all crave. Obviously, the weekly question: is he going to stick with Dykes, or do you expect him to mix it up this week with the starting 11?
Yeah, I think he'll stick with Dykes. I don't know who else he's got really. I mean, you've got Bond seems completely out of favour. I mean, they were trying to loan him out deadline day, weren't they? I don't think he'll start Armstrong yet. So I'd assume he's going to go with Dykes, unless they've got someone hidden in a cupboard somewhere that might be able to play up front. I think it'll be Dykes again. The rest of the team, the only other thing you might change is maybe play a back three. He's talked about it a bit recently, and they got a few centre halves coming back, but I wouldn't change too much. I think they've played pretty well the last couple of games.
Yeah, you're right on Bon as well. I looked before; he'd only featured in the first 3 league games, and he's not featured at all in the last 5. Now he's completely out of the pitch. He wasn't even on the bench, was he? Again last week.
Yeah.
Bit of a strange situation, especially whilst he's now definitely going to be here for the next few months. They maybe need to look at what they're doing with him. Touching on the strikers, Jim Jams on the forum made a fantastic point that we go on about strikers so much, and yet the backbone of our title-winning 10-11 season was the defence only conceding 32 goals. He pointed out that Watford that season scored 6 more than us and finished 14th. So it's about getting the balance right. And as much as we get sign a striker, we are still without a clean sheet. So is that still a concern, or have we again just been a little bit unlucky?
I think that's right. I mean, when we had that spell season before last, when Austin and everyone come in January and we moved up the table, a lot of that was because we started keeping clean sheets, stop conceding silly goals, and then you can win. You can nick a game 1-0 or 2-1 or 2-0. If you're going goal behind every game, you need to score 2-3 goals at the minute to win a game. And we managed to do it the other week, but with like Willock and Chair doing so well. But you're not going to be able to do that over a full season. And it puts a lot of pressure on your strikers. They have to, they have to score nearly every chance because they're going to concede one. But I think he's right. They definitely need to tighten up a bit at the back.
Yeah, I think some of it is just cutting out errors and maybe maintaining concentration. But again, that's probably something that they're working on. Overall, then against Huddersfield, do you think 3 points are coming our way?
Yeah, you've got to go with a home win now, and surely we're going to win that. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'd say we're going to win, but it literally comes down in my mind to if we get the QPR that played Hull, we win, and if we get the QPR that turned up at Swansea, it could be another long afternoon. And we probably need the points too, because obviously we have to follow that up with a trip to the Den. Now, in my head, I think Millwall, I think, oh God, we've got a terrible record. And we actually haven't. I think it's more the fact that we struggle at their ground, but we've only actually lost 3 of the last 22 matches against them going back to 1989. That's actually a decent record. There have been a lot of draws. But the only time we've won at their ground in recent times was obviously Mark Warburton's first season in charge. We didn't beat them last season. They beat Cardiff last weekend to end a run of 3 straight defeats, which was unusual for Millwall to lose a few in a row. They sit just below us in 14th. Have you seen much of them?
I haven't seen much of this year. I was looking today because I saw they were lower in the table, so I thought that was odd because they're normally around halfway, aren't they? But they've had quite a hard start. They've had Burnley, Norwich, and Sheffield United away so far, which I suppose has got them out of the way early for them. And they've got quite a good home record, so you'd think they'd probably start picking up in the next few weeks. They're always a hard team to play against, aren't they? I mean, they don't have like big star players, but they're as a collective, they're always a really good team, and you got to work hard to beat them.
Yeah, I don't even think there was Route 1 and maybe even as physical as people think they are, but it's just that they work hard. They're never going to give you a minute's peace. They're going to fight for every ball, aren't they? And it's what I can say at the start. It's one of those matches where every time I come to it, I say, "Oh no, we're not going to do well there." Yeah. Are you expecting the tough annual trip?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, I would say if we can get a draw out of that one, I think everyone will be quite pleased with that. I think it's always a tough game going to Millwall. Maybe it's not as intimidating as it used to be going there when they had the old stadium. That was a very different experience. But Yeah, it's like I say, it's going to be a very, very hard game. They're a good side. They always do well. They've got a good manager, always around the playoffs, aren't they? So if we get a point out, that'll be quite pleased.
Do you think he will make a few more changes this time with it being the 3-game week again?
I think he might do. I think you'd expect with a more physical game against Millwall, being a London derby and then being at home. So you wonder if he may change it a little bit in that one. I wonder if that might be the game where he goes to a back three, gets an extra centre half in there, tries to keep it tight in midfield. And you might see one of Willock or Chair left out of that one, and then save him for the Saturday game, which probably won't go down well, but it might be something they look to do to try and get a result in that one.
Yeah, it's just hard, isn't it, for managers? Because let's say, for example, we beat Huddersfield 3-0, and then he makes 5 changes and we lose. People are just going to slam him. But the other way around, obviously, if we don't make any changes and then lose, people are going to say, well, why didn't you change it? So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place sometimes. He probably just needs to do what he feels is the right way based on what he's seen against Swansea. And I think he will make some changes. And I think for my view would be that we need to probably get the first goal, silence the crowd, don't we, and go from there. I think if Millwall score first, which they did last season, it was a long evening again after that, wasn't it? I mean, as I mentioned right at the start of the podcast as well, like at the start of the league, considering we're only 8 games in, it's so congested. Usually it has started to spread a little bit. We're only 3 points above the bottom 3, despite being in the top half, which is just such a strange phenomenon. Do you think it's going to take 20 games rather than 10 games to see where we're heading this season?
Yeah, it's such a strange season this year because there's so many games at the start, and then you're going to have that big break in November. I think it's not really going to settle down until probably around Christmas. I mean, you're going to have your ones you would assume in Norwich and Sheffield United are going to be up there, and Watford. But other than that, everyone seems much of a muchness. You could just as likely finish 5th as you could 15th. There's not a lot between a lot of these teams. Reading are up there at the minute, and I mean, I thought they'd struggle this year, but obviously they're doing pretty well at the minute. But you wouldn't be surprised to see them sink in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're so strange. Like 2 4-0 defeats, yet they're still in the top 6. It's bizarre. Yeah. And like with these 2 matches, if we win 2, we could be second, and if we lose them both, we could be 22nd. It's and they say you can read into the league after 10 games, but I just don't think you can this season.
Not this year. I don't think you can. No.
Right now, I would take 3 points from these 6 just to keep us ticking along, and then get a few players back from injuries, and see where we start to head after that.
Definitely.
Anyway, join us next week, see if we are second or 22nd, and we'll be looking ahead to the final match before the international break against Stoke. Thank you as always for watching. Thank you, Dave. Like and subscribe if you can, and come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.